Good Shabbos, good Shabbos. We hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We're thrilled to see so many of you here in Shul with us, davening with us this morning. Thanking each and every one of you for coming to help make the minyan. I want to give a shout out in particular to Dr. Jacoby for chanting the Haftarah on our behalf, and to Gabbai Fred for assisting us with the honors and with the aliyot. And like I say, most importantly, to each and every one of you. So we recently celebrated the great American Yontif of Thanksgiving. Now, when I first came to your country, I was living in New York, and the wife says to me, we weren't married yet, but she said to me, she said, Eric, perhaps you'd like to join me. I'm going to Connecticut for the Yontif. So being a good Canadian, I don't know from your Yontif. I had no idea what she was talking about. So I said, no, I'm fine. I'm going to stay here. She said, no, you don't understand. I say, and this is she's been saying for about 20 years now. So she says, you don't understand that there's nothing going to be going on here. I say to her in response, I say, what are you talking about? It's New York City. I'm on the Upper West Side. There's going to be plenty going on. And by the way, if there's not, they have a book, they have a newspaper, whatever. She says, have it your way. She goes off to Connecticut, has a nice time. I get up the next morning. I step out onto Broadway on 122nd Street, and mamash, it's like a ghost town. It was unbelievable. So years thereafter, I've come to understand some of the American customs of Thanksgiving, and I do understand that mamash, really and literally here in this country, it is a yontif. And it's a yontif in part because it gives people the opportunity to get together, and they don't have to worry about religious differences, right? Do you want to say the Birkat HaMazon? Who's going to do the hamotzi? That doesn't necessarily come up in many family gatherings. In any event, I was thinking about the concept of thanks and Thanksgiving, and thinking about it specifically in the times that we're living through right now. We do know, and I wrote about it a little bit in my rabbinic reflections this past week, that as Jewish people, we have an orientation towards a sense of gratitude. So that is to say that when we wake up in the morning, it's a strange grammatical construct. Many people know the prayer, and I've referenced this before. The first words we utter out of our mouths are Moda Ani Lafanecha. That we thank you, we thank before you, God. I am thanking before you, God. And when you look at those three words, Moda Ani Lafanecha, it's actually grammatically incorrect, because you should have the subject before the verb. It should be Ani Modeh Lefanecha. That would be the way a regular Hebrew sentence is constructed, but it's not. And the reason it's not is because our tradition doesn't want you beginning your day with the word Ani, me. Rather, our tradition wants us beginning our day with the word Modeh, to be thankful. And I think that in and of itself, if you walk away with nothing other than that, walk away with that. It's a fantastic concept, this little twist that was done on purpose to say, by the way, it's not all about me, it's about giving thanks. And then we have the custom that is brought down in a number of different sources that is a reference and an interpretation of a biblical passage that says, Ma Adonai Doresh Mimcha. What does God really want mimcha from you? And the Talmud applies a little gematria and says from the word mimcha, a mem is worth 40 points, right, in this gematria concept. The other mem is worth 40 points. I'm at 40 and 40. What am I at, folks? 80. And I got a chaf, which is worth 20. Young man, 80 plus 20. God bless you. Thank God you can go back to school. So the 100, Ma Adonai Doresh Mimcha, according to the Talmud Bavli Menachos, that 100 from that word Mimcha is 100 blessings. We're supposed to recite 100 blessings every day. And it's a very nice idea. It's a very beautiful idea. And also, by the way, attainable if we did all the davening we're supposed to do, be that as it may. Anyway, the question is here. It seems to me that as we go through life, for all of us, there are many situations in which we forget to say thank you. So, for example, the wife goes out, I'm going to cook on Thursday night. The wife goes out and gets the groceries but she forgets the onions. Oi. So now, listen, instead of necessarily being oriented to saying thank you for going and getting all the groceries, what do I notice? I don't have the onions for the soup, right? So this is very nice. My wife, God bless her, she has one of these. Back in the day when people had to keep track of dates, they had a little book. Now everybody has it on their phone. Young man, you have anything on your phone with dates? Even better. Okay, so idea is that my wife remembers every family birthday. She'll come up and she said, oh, next week is our nephew's birthday living out in Western Canada. Who knows? She knows. And sometimes I forget to say thank you that she keeps track of all of these things. And it really is sometimes forgetting and sometimes not being responsive enough to the situation, but sometimes we do forget to say thank you. However, on the other hand, I'd like to suggest to you, if you're anything like me, there are also situations where I personally do not like being thanked. I don't like people saying thank you to me. Let's say, for argument's sake, theoretically, I write a brilliant article. Just theoretically. I write a brilliant article. I don't need somebody necessarily to come up to me and say, oh, Rabbi, thank you for writing such an inspiring article. I'm just not wired that way. Hey, it's my job after all. I teach a class in school. Let's say, for argument's sake, hypothetically, the class is brilliant. I don't need the students from my school when they leave the classroom to say, thank you, Dr. Wasser. If they do, I'm thrilled to accept it, but it makes me feel a little awkward. So I don't know about you, but the question becomes, for many of us, actually being thanked, right? Just like we forget to say thank you, sometimes when people thank us, it leaves us with a little bit of a sense of something a little strange. And why is that? And in fact, many of us don't even like being complimented in general. So the question becomes, why is that, and who are we? Some people suggest that the reason many don't like being thanked is because it sets up a sense of indebtedness that might make the one being thanked feel vulnerable. In other words, you thank me, and therefore I say to myself, perhaps, oh, maybe I have to keep track of this person the next time, and did I really do it for his purposes, etc. But it just sets up a very awkward dynamic. So now I'm going to flip back to the sense of the idea of the parshiot that we're reading through right now, which is about Yaakov, who comes to visit with Lavan with literally nothing. Right? He had nothing because he was escaping from a very dangerous situation. His brother was going to kill him. He leaves, he has nothing. By the time he is going to be reconciled with his brother Esav, if you recall, he is a very wealthy man. He has, in fact, 2 full camps. He has 4 wives, he has hundreds of camels, hundreds of flocks, etc. And he looks to God and he says the following pasuk that we find in chapter 32. He says, Katonti mikol hachasidim, umikol ha'emet asher asita et avdecha. The idea is, he says, that I wasn't worthy enough. Katonti, from the word katan, I am made small by all the graciousness and all the truth that you have done for me, your servant. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. So the idea is, yes, he's standing in this position of katonti, but how do we go through life and feel katonti that we're not worthy? And is that what our tradition wants us to do? So I want to share with you 2 interpretations of that pasuk. Katonti mikol hasidim, Rabbi Abba Bar Kahana said that you need to translate it as it is written. Katonti means you're not worthy, right? Not necessarily a great way to go through life, but sometimes we are literally not worthy of the kindness that is due to us. However, Rabbi Levi says the following. He says, I am worthy in the first place, but I become smaller a little bit by all the kindness that you do for me. And in that sense, with each act of generosity, the idea is that with each act of generosity that you do for me, I sometimes become smaller in my own eyes, right? So it's a very interesting way of reading it. And I don't know how it applies. And I don't know how it applies, especially because we're coming off of the holiday of Thanksgiving. But watch this. Katonti mikol hachasidim mikol ha'emet asher asita et avdecha. Are we not worthy? Are we being made smaller because of something that happens to us? And I have to reflect really on what we're looking at here at the front of the bima. And as many of you know, we were blessed with the return of 13 hostages the other day, with an anticipated additional group being received today. So is that a position, let's think about it, is that a position in which we should stand and be thankful, right? I think it's a really tough philosophical question. Are we thankful that 13 human beings have been returned to their lives, albeit now traumatized forever? Should we be thankful as a nation, as a people, knowing that 13 individuals have been returned, but by the way, some of them are coming back to broken families. Some of them are coming back to situations where they do not have parents, some of these kids. But the world wants us to say thank you. So I'm really struggling with the idea, and even in our relationship with the divine, right? So do we say thank you? Do we say thank you? Of course, there's part of us that wants to say thank you. But at the same time, there's part of us that has to struggle with the idea as to what does thanks look like in this context? Because it's not as easy as the wife forgot to buy the onions. It's not as easy as the wife reminded me that it's my nephew's birthday, right? These are really complicated issues, right? Some people have suggested that August 7th will go down and become, right, a day of national mourning, Shabbat Shahor, right? The Shabbat of blackness. And some people that I've read recently have said that yesterday was a historic event. Thank you. Maybe, maybe not. I'm only suggesting that yes, our tradition tells us to be thankful all the time. And we also know that we can't always impact the largest things in the world, right? We just can't. Maybe we can impact the smaller things in the world. Maybe we can say thank you to somebody for recommending to us a book. Thank you for recommending to me a video to watch. Thank you for sharing Thanksgiving food with me. But sometimes to say thank you is much more complicated than it appears. Katonti mikol hachasidim. Am I made small by all of the graciousness that you have given me? It's a complicated question. But what I do know is that God be willing that when each and every one of these hostages is returned, then, and to me, only then, will I be able to, with a full heart, say to Hashem and say to everybody, thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat Shalom.